This is how to make chicken and chorizo pasta in about 25 minutes. Before we jump in, drop a like, leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get straight into it. The first thing we're going to do is prepare our chicken tenderloins. Yes, I am using chicken tenderloins for this. You can use chicken breast and slice it into strips, but these are already pre-sliced naturally for you. What you may notice in there is that white tendon that runs through the chicken tenderloin. We want to remove this and I'll show you an easy way to do so. What we're going to need is a fork and some paper towel. And what you want to do is put the tendon through the prongs of the fork. In the other hand, grab it with the paper towel, make sure you grip it nice and tight, then push down on the fork and pull up with the paper towel. This is just going to remove that tendon in one piece. You might get a little bit of meat on there, but try your best to remove as little as possible. And it might take a little bit of practice, but once you get a hang of it, it's so easy and it saves so much time. Try not break them up too much. Some will lose their shape a little bit, but mostly you'll have these nice clean pieces. Next is 350 grams of chorizo. This is Spanish chorizo and it's a really nice fatty meat that we'll be able to render down and use the fat to cook everything else to get the most flavor out of everything. With this, all we want to do is remove it from the casing. I know this looks a little bit gross, but it's nice to get hands on with these types of things. Just squeeze the meat out of the casing. And if your chorizo is nice and hard, you will have to chop it up and dice it into small pieces, but try your best to get a soft one. This right here is 5 cloves of garlic. This has just been ran along a microplane to create a paste. You can chop it for this recipe as well as slicing. But like I always say, paste gives you the most flavor. It activates that allicin compound, which is what gives garlic its strong flavor and odor. Last but not least is some flat leaf parsley, 5 grams or 0.2 ounces to be exact. And this is completely optional. It's going to be used as a garnish at the end. If you are using it, just roughly chop it, scrunch it up a little bit beforehand. It's going to make things so much easier. Just make sure there's no large leaves or stems. Once all that's done, we can add our chicken tenderloins into a mixing bowl. Add in 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, half a teaspoon of ground cumin, a nice big pinch of salt, cracked black pepper, 15 cracks worth, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Get in there with clean hands and mix this all together. Make sure all of that seasoning is combined and all of those flavors have become friends. And you should have something that looks like this. When you're ready to cook, we can place a large pot of water over a high heat. Generously season it with some salt. Doesn't have to be ocean water though. Then we're going to bring this up to a boil. And a quick way to do it, just place a lid on. It's going to speed things up so much more. While the pasta's cooking, place a large pan over a medium heat. Whilst it's still cold, add in the chorizo. And we're going to spread this out as much as possible, breaking it up into little pieces. Now this one is quite sticky, so you do have to play around with it a little bit. And try your best to get them as small as possible. Once you have them broken up, let them sit for about a minute to get that nice sear on the bottom. Mix them around and we're going to cook this for a total of about 3 to 4 minutes until the fat has rendered out. They're nice and golden brown and we want to get as much of that fat to render as possible because we're going to be using this to cook the rest of the dish. Once you have the chorizo cooked, remove it, place it into a bowl and reserve the fat in the pan, placing that pan back over a medium-high heat. Next to go in is the chicken tenders. Spread these out and let them sit for about 2 minutes to get that crust, then flip them over and repeat the same process. We're going to cook these for a total of 4 minutes. When your pasta water's at a boil, carefully remove the lid and add in 400 grams or 14 ounces of any pasta of your choice. I'm using penne for this one and cook it for 1 minute less than the packet instructions. Then going back to the chicken, once it's cooked, remove it from the pan and lower the heat of the pan to medium. Add in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. I tried to mix it around, but it got stuck on the bottom of the pan. Spread it out, which will help it melt, and this will pick up a lot of that flavor that was left behind from the chorizo and the chicken. Once melted, add in the garlic. Spread this around almost immediately to prevent it from burning. Make sure it's not clumped up, and we're going to cook this for about 45 seconds. You'll notice that it becomes extremely fragrant, and you get those nice little light, crispy bits of garlic. Squeeze in 3 tablespoons of concentrated tomato paste. I'm using triple concentrated if you want to replicate this and use the exact same ingredients that I am using. Then mix this all through, make sure everything's combined, those flavors have become friends. The tomato paste will absorb the butter and the garlic. We're going to cook this for about 2 minutes. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I love cream. I'm using 1 600 milliliter bottle of thickened cream. It has a fat percentage of at least 35%. It's also known as whipping cream or heavy cream in other countries. Add all of that in and mix it all through. The sauce will turn a nice light pink color. We want to bring this up to a simmer at the same time. And this is also a good time to season to taste with salt and cracked black pepper. 15 cracks worth. With that all in, mix everything, make sure all of those flavors are combined and we're going to bring this up to a simmer. Once it is at a simmer, reduce the heat to low, and we're going to cook this for about 6 to 7 minutes until that sauce has thickened up really nicely. The penne that I used only needs 8 minutes to cook, so once that's done we can remove this, drain it for a colander and reserve a little bit of the pasta water. Once the chicken's rested, this can also be sliced up. You can leave it in strips or dice it into bite-sized pieces, which is what I've done here. And just make sure you go through, make sure they're all the same size. It makes it a lot easier, and have a little snack for yourself. After about 7 minutes on the sauce, you'll notice that it's nice and thick, and you can run a spatula through it, which creates ribbons, or you can see the bottom of the pan. Add in the chicken, as well as any resting juices, along with the chorizo and any of the fat that's in the bowl. And I'm also adding in about half of the flat leaf parsley, but you can add it all in, or reserve some for garnish later on, or cut a little bit more. It's completely up to you. Let's then give this a really good mix. Make sure everything's covered in the sauce and that flat leaf parsley is evenly distributed throughout. Add in the drained pasta, and again, just keep mixing everything through until everything's nice and saucy. And there should be enough sauce to cover all of the pasta, but that's where the pasta water will come in a minute and just loosen everything up, also increasing the sauce amount. This is optional, but you can add Parmigiano Reggiano right now. Add as much or as little as you like, and I'm also adding in the remaining flat leaf parsley. That's why I said you can just chuck it all in before. Mix that all through, allow that cheese to melt through the sauce, and this is where we'll start adjusting the consistency with the pasta water as well. And because we're adding water, you do want to double check the seasoning, just finishing it off one last time before we can then remove it from the stovetop. Now, it might not look it, but this recipe is actually quite filling. This recipe will serve 4 people depending on portion size. I like to stack the bowls, so I probably only get 2 portions out of this, but I do recommend using a little bit less. Garnish with more Parmigiano Reggiano, some more cracked black pepper. The amounts are completely up to you. And I also chopped up a little bit more flat leaf parsley as a garnish. What that leaves us with though is that chicken and chorizo pasta. It's creamy, it's got a beautiful color, and it smells amazing. There is only one thing left to do, and that is, of course, we can then dig in. Oh yeah. That's everything you want from a quick pasta. It's salty, it's delicious, it's rich, it's not overpowering. There's a little bit of smokiness in there from that chorizo and the smoked paprika. Chicken's really tender as well. And of course, it's extremely cheap to make. You can change up the ingredients, make it your own, use what you got in the fridge. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.